Yeah. So we're in the middle of Perek Zayin. Hopefully today we're going to finish it. It's a very long parak, so that's why it takes long parak. It takes time. Page 168. Huh? I think it's on. Second. Okay, so we're in the middle of Perek Zayin. Perek Zayin we started off, well, the second part of Perek Zayin from page Gimel. So we started speaking about the idea of Tzimtzum Kipshutai, Tzimtzum Lav Kipshutai. So we brought from the Rizal that the Rizal said that after Hashem created the world, this Hashem was, in order for Hashem to create the world, Hashem was still like that Hashem literally removed his Ur. So the question is, what does that mean? So there's a machlokes if when the Arizal said Silik that he removed his Ur, was that something? Obviously, it's not physical because Abishter's, well, it's not physical. But the question is that did Hashem actually remove something, or did Hashem just mitzad us that we're not able to see Hashem? So then Alter Rebbe last week we spoke about Alter Rebbe brings three reasons why we don't say Tzimtzum. Why three reasons why we don't say Tzimtzum K'Shodeh, that Hashem actually removed himself. So the first reason we spoke about last week was, I think it was last week we spoke about it, that you said that if you say Hashem removed himself, you're so to say saying that Hashem has a guf, Hashem has a body, and he was removing part of himself. And one of the ikrim is that Hashem doesn't have a guf, doesn't have a body. So if Hashem removed himself, then you're saying that Hashem has a guf. That was the first reason. Then there's a second reason. The second reason we spoke about was based on what we spoke about earlier of the idea of the Rambam. That the Rambam said that Hashem and his Yediyah are totally one. So we explained last week that if Hashem's Yediyah, Hashem's knowing is one with him, you can't say that Hashem removed himself and the world is something separate to Hashem. Because if Hashem is one with his Yediyah, with everything that he knows, then the world can't be separate from him. Because it just doesn't make sense to say that. If Hashem and his knowledge are one, then obviously Hashem is totally one with the world. Just to say Hashem removed, can't say that. And then we moved on to a third idea we brought from the Zohar. Like the Zohar said, the Zohar said, the Zohar said, what did the Zohar say? The Zohar said, the Leis Asar Panamini, that there's nowhere nowhere that's empty from Hashem. So if there's nowhere that's empty from Hashem, then what does that mean? That Hashem's in the whole world, including this the world that Hashem created. Now, obviously, the other people that said Tzimtzum Shutta, that Hashem actually removed himself, that they also know the Zohar, that the Zohar says that Leisas are Panamini, there's no place that's empty from it. So the way that they learned it is Leisas are Panamini is that Hashem knows what's happening in the world. Not that Hashem is actually here, but Hashem's knows what's happening in this world. Not that Hashem is actually here, because they say that Silla Kasatma Hashem removed himself from the world. So, because even they're going to agree that there's still Hashem in the world. They're not going to say that the world is a separate thing. They're just going to
say that he's one with Hashem.
we're all right.
Shifts or
Yeah. So even
he's not separate from it.
right. But even the people that say that Hashem removed himself from the world in order to create the world, they still agree that everything in the world is getting highest and it's existing only because of Hashem. They're just going to say that it's a much lower level, much lower level. We spoke about, I think, that we said like Hashem gives highest to everything, like a domim sameach medaber. And the way that Hashem gives highest to, let's say, a medaber people is obviously a much higher level of highest than Hashem gives highest to a plant or a stone or something like that. But it doesn't mean that in the stones, everything's still getting highest, even as in the stone only needs a certain level of highest in order for the stone to exist. But this doesn't mean that there's highest for metal doesn't exist. The highest, there's still a high level of highest that exists. Just in the stone, there's only a lower level. So that's the same thing. When Hashem created the world, that according to the people that say still like Hashem was removed himself, they still agreed that this level of Hashem still existed. They're just saying which level of Hashem came into the world, only the lowest level that needed in order for the world to exist. No,
Curious.
it's a little yeah, because
Yes, it's
everybody at the end, everybody agrees that Hashem is created, Hashem is creating, and Hashem is involved in the world. The truth is, yeah, there's no. So we don't see a difference how Hashem created the world. We just see the world. So, but there is a difference if we say, as in one of the reasons that they wanted to say that Hashem removed himself from the world is because they said like Hashem can't be in a bathroom, Hashem can't be in certain places. It's not respectful for Hashem. Obviously, they're going to agree that there's some level of
understanding. Have to come up with something that makes it different. Something higher than
than us. Yeah,
Paul wants to say to people.
people.
Say Hashem's everywhere in the bathroom. People, reflection, I don't know, shadow, I don't know. You have like a funny random accent.
I don't know. I said we don't put a mezuzah on the bathroom. Why don't we put a mezuzah on the bathroom? I'm saying Hashem's everywhere, but it's a certain level of kedusha. I think more actually connected to the kedusha of it mezuzah than Hashem not being there. As in, I'm just thinking now. Like it's funny because if you say Hashem's everywhere, then why don't you put him in the bathroom? It's not respectful. I'm saying what's not respectful? Hashem's there. Hashem's everywhere.
It's only live.
Are you saying it's
Don't live.
no? But if you have a big walk-in closet, then it gets a mezuzah.
People spend $100,000 in their life.
Exactly.
Company where I work in, custom made plumbing.
What's a login?
Right.
Oh. Um, as in everybody's going to tell you that the kedusha is still kedusha, the English is everywhere. The question is if you say there's a lower level in certain places, or it's the same. It's the same. Which out there, right? That's what I was trying to say. That symptom lav kedusha. Hashem is everywhere. The only no, but that's right. But why not? But everywhere, if Hashem is there.
It's enough. It's not, it's not respecting.
That's what they wanted to say. That's why they said Hashem removed himself from this world. Hashem can't be in this physical world, but we're involved in Gashmias and that type of thing. So that's why they said Hashem removed himself. But the Alter Rebbe says that no, the Alter Rebbe said no, that Tzimtzum Lapkiv Shoteh, Hashem is in this physical world. How it fits with what we do and things that are not fit for Hashem, I don't know. Hashem's still here. Just because somebody does something wrong doesn't mean Hashem's not here. Just because there's a bathroom, it doesn't mean Hashem's not here.
But it's not a focus. It's related to Hashem. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The question is why not? Saying it's not respectful. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, then we continued on last week. We brought from the Rai Mehem. The Rai Mehem is a part. It's Rai Mehem is from Moshe Rabbeinu. I don't exactly know the whole. Because Zaya we always say is from Rashbi. At least he's the one that was in the Galit. So how Rai Mehem came from Moshe? Then Rai Mehem means a faithful shepherd. So why would I'm saying it refers to Moshe? But anyways, that's just a side point. So we brought from last week. There's the Rai Mehem. The Rai Mehem that says that Iyul Tofis Bakola, that Hashem is. It's on. Will be the page before then. Where are we? Page 166. It's like 166. It's like halfway down the page. So we wrote from the Rai Mehem. The Rai Mehem that says Iyul Tofis Bakola, that Hashem is Tofis Bakola. Hashem grasps everything. The Leisman, the toughest baby. Nothing can grasp Hashem. Then it said Iyul Som Bakola, and Hashem is Sober, which literally just means that Hashem surrounds everything. The laceman did not still say the bar, nothing goes outside. Yuma Malik called Alman Hashem fills the world. Yuma Skasha. Okay, that's the main idea. So we said there's two main points. And number one, Hashem toughest Bakoil. Hashem grasps everything. But then it says laceman the toughest bay, then no one can grasp Hashem. So normally by anything physical, what happens if something is in something, then the other thing should be able to see it. For example, let's say you take light. I don't know, maybe light's not even a good marshal because light's more realistic. But if you have light in a room, right, you can't say that there's light going into the room, but it's still dark. As in, okay, if it's a big room and you have a little light. But in a regular case, if you turn on the light, what happens? The light automatically makes the whole room light. There's a whole discussion, I think, of scientists if darkness is its own thing. So there's also, I think, some places speak about it. If darkness is its own serious or just a lack of light. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not a scientist, and I still speak about it somewhere, but I'm not sure. But normally, when you turn on the light, what happens? Then automatically it gets light. So if something's shining, something's taking up space, something somewhere, then something else can take it. So if Hashem was saying Hashem is in this world, then what happens? We should be able to understand Hashem, see Hashem, feel Hashem. So Dafka by Hashem, chiddush of this Rai Mehemna, of this Zayir, is that Hashem is in this world, but even though Hashem is in this world, that we can't be Tofus Hashem, we can't grasp Hashem. And it says in two, it said we said last week there's two in the not only can we not understand how Hashem, not only can we not understand Hashem how he is in the higher worlds, and we even know how Hashem is in the lower worlds. Even in the lower worlds, even though there's a level of how Hashem comes into the world that we still can't understand. We're still not able to grasp Hashem. That's what we spoke about last week. I think this is where we got up to this week. That was all idea of Soviv. I think we got up to Mamali. What we spoke about last week also, the idea of Soviv is that we gave a marshal about somebody that thinks about something. That the idea of Soviv that you can get everything around it, but you don't have the thing itself. Like if somebody thinks about somebody else, their thinking doesn't affect the person who they're thinking about. For example, let's say, two people. Let's say if Roman's thinking about Shimon, Shimon doesn't even know that Reuben's thinking about him, and even if Rav Shimon finds out, it doesn't make any difference to him that. Okay, that's not true, but it could make it. If you sometimes you're happy that somebody is thinking about you, but the general idea is that just because somebody's thinking about you doesn't necessarily affect you. There is idea of, especially by tzaddikim, thinking about tzaddikim, they can help you, but regular people thinking about them doesn't affect them, because the idea is that the seichel is just makif. It only surrounds, doesn't actually have the actual thing. But by Hashem, the difference by Hashem is that Hashem's Sovim is even inside the world. So then we come to, there's a question, after a question like this, that if we're saying that it's Sovim by Hashem, Sovim, what you're saying is a level of surrounding. Let me take a step back, actually, 1 second, I'm going too quick. Till now we're explaining that that means that Hashem is actually in the world. So how does this fit with Sova? What Sova? Sova literally means that Hashem just surrounding the world, that Hashem's not found actually inside the world. So which one is it? Is Hashem just surrounding, or Hashem is inside? So we explain that how this makif is by Hashem is different, because we say like by Hashem that even though it's makif, we say that even Sova and makif are similar, yeah. Then they have the opposite side. You have Pnimi. That's something that was. That's what we're going to speak about. Mamali, and we're going to get to that in a minute. So when we say Sover, it doesn't mean that Hashem remains removed from the world. It means that Hashem is higher, but also Hashem comes into the world. Now, so the question is, why do we need Mamali? If Sover includes how Hashem is coming into, Hashem gives highest to the world, we're going to explain that Mamali gives everything highest on everything to each level. Sover is like the general highest that's giving the world life force, but Mamali is each in their individual thing.
Well, each other.
So they both need each other, yeah. You need yeah. I saw sorry.
Separate but connected.
So Sover market. So we both need both parts. There's the general highest and then we need the
separate views but connected work.
Right. I saw a story that it said like I don't know, when like 150, 200 years, the Maskilim were big things. Well, like 150 years ago. And so one of them came to wanted to teach in he wanted to teach Tanakh in Chaim Briscoe Yeshiva. And I don't know what he was thinking, I'm not sure. No, because he wanted to, I think, be able to influence people. So he said, I'm going to come teach Tanakh. And he said, Tanakh, you just learn with Tanakh and I'm a first on Tanakh. I'm saying there's nothing, it's a time versus the Torah, and I'll give you a mashal. A mashal is that if somebody can take kosher food and they cook it in a tray of pot, what happens? It's tray. It's not kosher. So he said the same thing is the same. I don't know if he explained to him or the guy just hopefully will understand it that you might be teaching kosher things, but it's coming from a trait that your head is trait basically because you're with the maskila. So
No people who want to teach. Brooklyn, I want to see what you see on there. The Tanakh teachers weren't from the families.
I had a friend that went to school at the teacher told him
But I don't want to say that she should. I don't have it anymore. We walk by it all the time. As many years ago, that I was a teacher they had it. I was it.
that friend he went to school. The teacher told him that I think he was like in high school when the teacher taught him Bereshis bar like him as Hamayim Vesaretz. So
Translated or something?
no, I'm not sure. So instead of Esa Shamayim, he taught Esamayim. He taught Esamayim.
I was in ninth grade. Really cheap. Had a Ashkelon. He was, I'm not sure he considered reform, but he used to teach correctly others in the public school. It's like, and he liked to hear Al Sharpton. I said,
He taught in Hebrew. No, probably just
no,
English. Actually, I did.
teaching was
Well, I'm fairly quickly, obviously. You don't tell them it's 50 hours. You just bring your
he called it ethics. Jewish rabbis, and public school people like it. That's what he said. He said they liked it, like the parents liked the class, and honoring parents, honoring family, school board liked it. And he used to like used to ask him, I know I'm not allowed to teach you because I'm not orthodox. And like he went on the whole rant, like I know you don't want to learn. He didn't teach it us, but he kind of like wanted to see how you know relate to him.
interesting.
He was fun. You know, that
Wait, this he was a film teacher?
so he was our English teacher,
See, oh,
but in the public school, he taught ethics and a lot of things in temple control.
yeah.
So we asked him, like, what else do you teach? That he still else he said, oh, ethics. He said, oh, I teach part of that. Which
Anyways, the reason I'm saying the story is because there's the idea of sober. There's something that just surrounds it, but even though something this sober just goes around, it can affect what's inside, like a pot or a brain or a. Anyways, it was just a just nice to what we're saying that even though we're saying Hashem is mak, the way Hashem is that is sober is around the world and still affects the world. Last week we mentioned about the idea of a house, that a house is the idea of mak, that a person, yeah, food which just goes inside a person and it depends on the child needs to eat this food, an older person this food. But a house is the house is makif, just it's the same by every person. But even though a house is makif, it still gives a person security, so gives a person a place to live, and so even though it's makif, it still can affect the person. Similar idea that just even though something's makif, it can still affect the person. Okay, so let's go back inside. We're up to Mamali. It's like where is it? It's like on page Dalet, it's like 10 lines down. So Mamali kol almin. He b'chinas hachayis hamislabesh as toich etzem hanivra shehi mitzumtzemes b'soichoi b'tzimtzum ra kfi erech machus hanivra shuv al gvul b'tachlis b'kamusoi b'echusoi dahainu malosoi b'chashivusoi. What's Mamali? Mamali is how Hashem is mitzamtzem, how Hashem contracts Hashem's chayis b'tzimtzum ra with a lot of tzimtzumim kfi erech machus hanivra depending on each level, each nivra Shehu bal gvul b'tachlis everything depending on its level of Maila and its Hashivus. So we're going to bring an example now of this idea that everything that Hashem created, since it's coming through many tzimtzumim, everything comes in a way of gvul. Everything comes in a limited way. Because how do you get from Hashem, who's Ein Sof, who's totally unlimited, to something that's gvul? So it has to come through tzimtzum. And we're going to say that even we're going to bring a mashal of the sun. The sun is an example of it, the strongest thing that we have in this world. That it's however far away, and even though it's so far, it can still be placed to it's still shining in this light in this world. So it could go in, and so we're saying that even the Shemesh, which is such a strong Nibra, such a strong creation, it's still limited. Could go in Hashemesh, Shegufo, yes, lo guf, but Tachlis become that its guf is limited, but Tachlis become Shur Kamoi, Kuf Samach Sayin Pomen, Kegoidel Kadul Haaretz. That the sun is 167 times, however big the earth is. We'll come back to this in a second. So that the sun's light also has until how far the sun could shine. But officially, according to scientists, that if the earth was any closer to the sun, then it would be too hot for us to live. And if it was any further, then they have a whole note there about why it's 167. One second, let's finish off. So too, just as the sun is created that it has limits, so too every creation from the heavens to the sky is tough kufshan. It's 500 years. So we're saying even we're speaking about there's some when we say this heaven, it doesn't mean ruchni's heaven. There's some sort of physical heaven that's 500 years away. What exactly means, I'm not sure, but I'm saying everything that's created is it's limited. This idea that the Earth is 167 times. If you look at modern sciences, they all say that it's like I think there's I don't know, it's very hard, either 4 to 5 million. What do they say? 4 to 5 million? This is from the Rambam. The Rambam. No, how big? How many times bigger is the sun than the Earth? So, so here the Rambam writes that it's 167 times bigger. The person that wrote to the Rebbe that how could it be? Because science says that it's I think 4 or 5 million times bigger, or maybe like 1.3 million. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know so much science. I didn't much understand it. But the Rebbe basically wrote back that they were speaking about I think the diameter or something. No, the Rambam I think was speaking about the diameter.
That's 110 to the shine.
Yes, that's part of it.
Depends how you measure it.
Yeah. So the diameter they said is 170 times. But he said the volume which was but that's it's about like 4 to 5 million. Also, it's very hard to measure. I don't really know these stuff. I'm not sure, but
Shaar, often target foul assessment skill. Thanks. 500 years like a remes to Moshe Rabbeinu davening 500 times.
it could be.
It's like Lestana and davens. It's like you said. It's like a remes to davening, different levels of davening from Hashem.
And but just this idea that the Earth is 167 times, that a lot of times in science would like how old the world is, right? So obviously we say 5, 7, 7. What do we have? Five. Hey Zion, yeah. But there's no, so exactly. So there's people that try to say that no, should really the world is older, and that when Torah says this, it doesn't literally mean that. But
also the Gemara in the Chagiga, 974 generation.
yeah, so people will give different answers, but the Rebbe is always saying that whenever we have in Torah, that's the way it is. Like he said, if you look at scientists, so the people that it doesn't make a difference. It's true, but some people try to say Torah can't be true because you see that it doesn't work. But
you can plug every science study, you take every science information and throw it into Kabbalah. You say they say sparks and explosions. You just say insights. You just make up anything. You plug in anything and write a whole fancy book.
Right, so I've always said that, like, if you go to people that study trees, they'll tell you the world must be 2 billion. Then you'll go to people that study, I don't know, animals, and they'll tell you must be a different amount of years. There's a long letter about it. I don't remember the Rebbe. Yeah, the Rebbe always said that whatever we have in Torah is true. However, everything else fits, you have to fit it with the. You have to fit it with Torah. There was a professor of Melville Green. He studied like bacteria or something like that. And
Going to
NASA hired him because they wanted to know how the bacteria from space would work or something like that. So, anyways, he came through the Shliach from Minnesota, then Moshe Feller, and whatever the whole story. I don't know, remember all the details, but I remember that the first time he got a call from Moshe Feller, so he thought some guy was collecting money. So he said, "I'll give you $80," and Moshe Feller said, "No, I want to come meet you." So he said, "No, it's okay, okay, I'll send you $36." Anyways, finally they arranged a meeting, and he came. And in the middle of the meeting, he got up to Mishpela said, "I have to do something for a few minutes." So he got up and he davened and came back. The Professor Green told him that he was very upset. He said, "It's not respectful. I made a meeting for you when you got up." And anyways, Mishpela explained to him that he had to go daven. And anyways, he said that made a big impression on him, and eventually he became firm. But I don't remember the details, but there's some story that he worked to the Rebbe. He was a big professor, so he worked to the Rebbe all his questions, how terrorists fits with science. And basically, the Rebbe didn't answer him, but the Rebbe kept answering him about sending his kids to Jewish schools, I think. I think that's what it was. And so he thought, because probably the Rebbe doesn't have an answer about it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he wrote to the Rebbe once mentioned something about it by a Fabreina or something. And he basically told the Rebbe, "You keep the Torah, and I'll do the side, like don't get involved." I think it's printed somewhere. I just
that sounds familiar. Something I read, and then years
exactly years later, after he became exactly after he changed his kids to Jewish schools, and the Rebbe answered back.
did everything the guy said.
Yeah, and he said, I think he's saying that he realized that the Rebbe didn't want to start at like that's not the Rebbe's job. The Rebbe's job was to get his kids into Jewish school. After that, that you could discuss how science fits the Torah. But that's like a side point. The main thing was like, anyway. So
Oh, the Leo, it comes to like fossils, right? The Leo's found and said just when it was things got preserved because ice, cold weather, and things got looked very old because power. And hey, put something in the pot, or something in the fire, it's old, it burns. Put something in the freezer, it stays fresh. So show like comparing the two.
yeah, the people that say because of the whole flood that since there's so much water, if you put something in water, then it takes away what so it takes away.
Everything could make sense in a way. And now all the books are AI anyway. There's still no point reading them, I realize. I realize even Star wrote AI.
Anyway, let's finish. Let's see if we can finish the. Actually, whatever. No else. If we finish, yeah. If we don't finish, it's fine. So yeah, so we said border marshal. Everything Hashem created is rule is limited. For example, like we said about this is the sun, that it's 170 times. So im kein hachayis hamlabeshes bahem he bechinas tzimtzum rabba atzum that it's a lot of tzimtzumim kitzrif atchila the tzamtim tzimtzumim rabbim tzumim actually is have mikocha ba'ira etem and avram k'mosheim balago tachlis. So in order Hashem to create a limited thing, then a chayis has to come inside of them. So the question is, where does this symptom happen? So now we're going to go back to what we spoke about in Parak Aleph, that the symptom is through the Asar Memaris. Where does everything get the chayis from? From the Asar Mislabish, Asar Memarish Shabbatara. Everything's getting a chayis from Hashem, who's putting it through the Asar Memaris. V'ruach Piv Yisparech. Hayayachal is Pashik in Kates. But Livrei Oilamayis Adin Kates. The Tachlis, the Kamosim, Echosam, Lechisam, Adiyad, Veloy, Nibra Oilamazekla. The sad how Hashem, when Hashem speaks, Hashem's dibur, Hashem's speech is different than our dibur. That Hashem's speech is unlimited. So if Hashem would just keep speaking unlimited, there would be an unlimited amount of words. There's Shekamoy HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nikra Insoy. Kach Medosov Benosov. Iyuv HaGamay Yichad. That we say that Hashem is Ein Sof. Hashem doesn't have an end. And the same way as Midas also, there's no end to them. Later on in the next paragraph of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe speaks about this more, that Hashem and his Midas are totally one. So if Hashem and his Midas are one, the same way Hashem is Ein Sof, so his Midas are also unlimited. Hainu hachayis hanim shachas mimidu shehin chesed v'rachmim shar midus v'akdushas ha'idei slapshusas shchalbeshes v'rachpiv ki omer v'yev v'yilam ha'idei chesed yibonim v'Hashem v'rachpiv ha'naseh Do the bush lefesid didn't come to the bush emini. Okay, let's go back. That was just crap. Okay, hello. So now we're going to explain how the symptom happened. We're going to mention the three things that we mentioned earlier on in Parak Aleph, and then we're going to add a new thing about the Shem Ba. So Allah should symptom Hakadosh Baruch Hu ha'ar b'chayis sheyachol espash t'murapiv. So Hashem was mislahal that Hashem mitzamtim midbil bishay toich tirufei yosish shel Hashem rais v'tirufei b'chilufei b'tmuras yosish atman u'chesh b'nuzbara. Okay, so yeah, let's read that quickly. But there's three things. Yeah, we spoke about this in Parak Aleph, right?
Time, first time you sure, you know.
Yeah, because it's right at the beginning that we're saying that Hashem created everything through Tzimtzum. That Hashem, everything is mentioned in the Samamara. So he said, what about things that aren't mentioned? So we spoke about this three things. The first thing is Tzirufei Osius. Tzirufei Osius is how the letters swap one letter with another letter. For example, I don't know. Yeah, exactly, like that. But even I think it's even more than that. You take a random. No, that's the next thing. Yeah, that's like atbash. Yeah,
one letter from first letter, one letter second.
So that's the next thing. That's chalufei b'tmuris osis atman. You take one letter, you take the aleph from Evan, and you put it in the aleph of Ar. How it works exactly, we don't really know. I don't know. That's the second way. You just take one letter from here, one letter from there, and you put it all together. You get a word. The second one is cheshbon misbaron. We spoke about this last time, but it's an important thing is that the idea of gematria. That if one word has the same gematria as another word, it means that they're getting the chayis from a similar place. Now, whenever Rabbi Yoel Khan used to, he was the one that after Rebbe spoke at a Fabring, and he was the one that would write it down. He was remembering hours and hours, and he also was working. Most of the Rebbe's sitters that we have, he was the one in charge of writing it all down. And so he would always say that gematria, out of all these three things, that you have the tzirufei yosius, swapping the letters, and then chilufei yosius, and then gematrius. The gematrius is the lowest level. Why? You don't have any of the same letters. It's just the same gematria. Gematria itself doesn't have anything similar. I saw they bring a mashal of two foods with the same amount of calories.
Gematria would be like backwards.
Gematria is just the amount that.
Well, 7 or 7.
Okay, I don't know, but the gematria itself doesn't have any connection. It just this equals that. So they brought a mashal one of these firm about the idea of calorie. That's something just because they both have the same amount of calories, it doesn't mean this is good and this is bad. Yeah. Right, that's what we're gonna get to in a minute, yeah. But that was just a funny mashal. That doesn't show what the thing is. So he said you can't make a connection between two things because they have the same gematria. Like a few years ago, people making gematrias that Trump equals Mashiach or whatever.
Hey, Donald Trump is Mashiach.
Whatever, but
certain way, it's equals.
I don't know, but
so they say this it's like a remez of a good sign, and Kamalos, Amalos, if you understand the Lord. It's a remez, and it's a bad sign.
So it's saying you can't connect two things plus gematrias. Once they're connected, then you can say how they connected because their gematria equals the same. But gematria is not enough to make a connection.
Something more.
Yeah, you need something more than that. Once they're connected, then you right. So what happens when you have either tzirufei yosius or chalufei or cheshbonos mitzvara, that you swap them around and they get a lower level of chayis. Shekol chiluf etzmura moiral yiridas har v'chayis b'madrigal. That every chiluf, every swapping shows on a lower level from one level to a lower level. I know that last night they're learning here about klirish and klishenim. Maybe it's a little bit connected. You take one thing from the same thing, you put it in a lower level, you end up with something a lower level. So the same thing, you're getting a chayis from Hashem. You swap it around, you swap these letters, it comes out at a lower level. With this gematria. So every swap shows on a lower level. That any time Hashem created, so Hashem creating it is giving a chayis. If it's swapping around, Hashem is giving it a lower level of chayis. So the cheshbon modal miyut are chayis. If it has the same gematria, it's even a lower level. Miyut achar miyut actually nishur mimeno el b'chenas achrona. Just the lowest level. So b'chenas cheshbon or mispar kama mine koichos. Madregas klubos ba'ar b'chayis hazeh amas klubos b'tziruf shatei v'zu. So yeah, so the idea we just spoke about that when you're swapping around and it's just the gematria, then it's even a lower level. So the acher call hatzim tzumama'ila b'chiyutzbehen kasher gazra chachmas yisbarif sheyiyachal arva chayis l'slavish kam tachlin and kumvan of achar. That after Hashem does all these tzumim, then it can come into physical, even to doimim. What's the most doimim thing? The most doimim thing is a stone. A stone has no chayis. We spoke on in the first paragraph that when Hashem is creating the world to that thermal, it's not only is Hashem creating it, Hashem's also giving a chayis. So we're saying now that you have something like doimim that like a stone that not doesn't really, you don't see the chayis in it. So even that it comes through the tzimtzumim that Hashem is able to give a chayis. Ki even the mashal shema morik yishosh mishem ma'oila ban b'misparoi va'oid aleph nusefes mishem acher l'tama yidul yirja. This is what you mentioned before. What Evan is from um there's four different names, not different names of Hashem. There's four names, four ways you can spell the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei.
Oh boy.
There's four main ones.
12 and it's like 30.
There's four main ones.
I have like charts of all. I don't know if I should be
I don't know. Normally there's four
Outside
different ones.
ones,
Exactly.
This one is Yud Daled.
So this always speaks about what's the difference.
Okay.
So they're a little bit different. They're not like a name of Hashem that has kedusha. For example, you're allowed to say Shema. You don't say Hashem's name Kel or Abba. You don't say them straight out. But Ma, Ban, Sag, you can say them because they're not the. They're a different type of. They're more of like a gematria that shows on Hashem more than an actual name of Hashem. So
For us to connect, understand Shefa and Hashem.
yeah, so they show on different parts of Hashem. Siddur always explains that it says that Moshe was Shem Ma. Ma is what Ma is if you take Hashem and you spell it with you take a Yud. Yud is Yud. I'm gonna get confused here. 1 second. Yud Vav Daled. Yud Vav Daled is 20. Hey, if how do you spell Hey? Hey is if it's with an Aleph. Hey Aleph is 6. And then Vav Aleph Vav is 13. What are we up to? 20, 26, 39, and then yeah, Hey Aleph is 45. So Hey, yeah, Ma is always if you spell it with an Aleph. And Chassidus always explain that what's Ma? Ma is the idea of Milmaila Lamata. But it's always the idea that it wasn't fully refined. It says that Moshe was the idea of Ma. That's why it says Moshe he was born very early. He was born after 6 months because he was the idea that it was. Am I getting the wrong way around? 1 second. I'm getting the wrong way around. Anyways, but I said that Elio was. I'm pretty sure that Elio. Yeah, Moshe is definitely Shem Ma. So it says that Elio was Shem Ban. Ban is 52. How's it 52? Maybe if you spell Hey with two Hay's something.
Yeah,
Hey is you spell Yud K and you spell Hey with two Hay's, then I think it equals 52. It works out if you draw it all out. But it says about Elio that he was from Shem Ban, and it said he was Shem Ban is how Hashem is like higher than the world, and that's why when he came in Elio, when he passed away, then his guf stayed down here, and his neshama went up because he was able to be mezachik. He was able to refine his whole guf. Whatever. Basically, each of these different names of Hashem represents a different way of how Hashem is in the world. But it's different than how different names of Hashem.
That's outside
Yeah, but
Hey
is Man, is Ban. Aleph is Ma.
Mem Hey is Rui Alpha.
Yeah.
Yud is San. No, it's Ab, and then San is like.
But
Hey, Yud and
so we're saying over here is that what's Evan? Evan is Aleph and Ban. So Evan is getting its highest from Ban, and Oid Aleph Nisefes that has an extra Aleph. Mishem Achla Tama Yudul Yotra. The Tama Yudul Yotra means the one who created it. Who created a stone? Hashem created a stone. Why it's added, we don't know. That's what I think you mentioned before. But sometimes you have a gematria plus one. Like Evan. Evan you have it's from Shem Ban, that's the base of Nun, and the Aleph is the extra thing. So the Hine Shem Ban Ba'atzmai, Kuba Oilum Salyun Miyod, it's a very Rakshali dates Sumim, Rabim Matsumim, Madrega Madrega, Yered Mimeno Hayes Muatim Oid Maoid, Achiyuchal Slavish Bev, until it can go into a stone. So the eight Vizohi Hanefesh Adomim Machayim Ave Somian Liat Cholaga commotion is barlow. So I mentioned before that in Paragalit that it's giving it not only is it bringing it in existence, it's giving it height. Vizohi Bechinas Mamali Klam and Mashin Kim Bechinas Tova Klam. And this is the idea of Mamali. Mamali is that everything goes into the thing, giving it highest exactly how much it needs. Lots of difference between soviv. Sometimes the idea of soviv it's called sometimes called an igul, a circle. What's a circle? A circle is that everything is exactly equal from the middle. That it doesn't make a difference to from the middle of a circle everything's equal. That's the idea of soviv, that it's just given. Mamali means that it has to come into each prat. So if we're coming into each nibra, each creation has to have its own amount of chayes. So the call koyach madrega yachal livru beruyim. Be bechinas madriga zu gam ken lein kates with hapas b'kamosim ve'chusam liyachas adiyad. So every level comes down to they can give chayes the achshu koyach Hashem hamispashit v'netzah murach pi ve'in ratzor achshu lo yeh chusam amayla gdula kolkach ke'eit chusam maylas beruyim sheyuchlu liberis mibchutz bechinas koyach madrigas ha'isius atzman. So every level shows on a lower level, but yeah, even so, but everything that's created has comes into full. Since it's coming through Tzimtzum, through Ramale, how much exact through that's Ramaris, how much Chayes needs, everything comes in a limited amount. I just want to end up with the story of the Shmuel Munkus. Because we spoke about him last week about the Krepelach story. So
Strong, it's full, it's hard, it's full.
So he said that he was once traveling on the way, and I get the guy that was traveling was taking some mashka with him, and used to carry it in big barrels, and it's freezing in Russia, so they were going, and they were going. So he asked the guy if he can take a little sip. The guy said fine. So, anyways, he takes a little sip. He feels better. They say that if you drink alcohol, the reason you feel better is because it pushes the heat to the outside. So really, you actually get colder, but it pushes the heat to the outside, something like that. Anyways, he took a little chayim and he felt better. So when he got to Lubavitch, they asked him to share something. So he said, I was going the whole way and I was cold. So I asked the guy for a little bit of l'chaim. I took a little l'chaim and I felt much better. So everybody like looked at him, what are you trying to say? So he said like this. He said, sometimes we're surrounded by things. We're surrounded by svarim. We're surrounded by something that's makif, that it's so, it just surrounds us. But when we have to take it inside of us, then it can actually affect us. So that's the idea. We're speaking about today that there's the idea of Hashem created the world through Soviv, through there's also has to be Mali, how Hashem gives highest to each thing individually. And then next week, I guess we'll start by Ches. Okay. Time speed might be here. I don't know if that time that way. Time Tzvi, what are you up to?
I'm in 7th Avenue stop. It's going to take probably 15 minutes.